Raheem Sterling, the Liverpool golden boy turned money-hungry snake who turned his back on the club that made him to go on to win 4 Premier League titles with Manchester City. But how does such a decorated player, who at one point was a star player in a team managed by the great Pep Guardiola, end up becoming surplus to requirements at a team in crisis just 2 years after his most recent title win? Today we will be looking at Raheem Sterling and how he went from Premier League champion to surplus to requirements in just 3 seasons. A story of slander, sitters and ego. The story of Sterling's devastating but predictable downfall. But before we go any further and actually get into Sterling's downfall, please do like the video if you enjoyed it. It really does help the channel out, and also comment your thoughts down below on Sterling's career and what you think of his downfall and how you think it could have potentially been prevented. But most importantly, please do not forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and especially if this is the first video of mine you're watching, please do make sure you stay right till the very end and check out the rest of the videos on the channel. You will not regret it, and it might even further encourage you to subscribe. With all that being said, let's get into today's video and study the downfall of Raheem Sterling and see if there is any way that all of this could have been prevented. After joining Manchester City for £50 million in the summer of 2015, Sterling wouldn't exactly light the world on fire in his first season at Manchester City, being seen as a player that was just playing in a system and wasn't really a standout man, especially for the money that was paid for him, with £50 million being a lot at the time. And Sterling was seen as a big money flop, especially under manager Manuel Pellegrini. But with the introduction to Pep Guardiola at Manchester City, things would get slightly better, with him still not being at his best under his first season in Pep's team, with obviously there being a few teething problems with Pep's tactics translating to some of the clientele that were in the team. But his second season, on the other hand, would see him become a Premier League champion for the first time, something that no Liverpool player had done up until this point. And he would go on to score 23 goals in 46 appearances, helping Manchester City register a record-breaking 100 points to win the Premier League title and win Pep Guardiola's first Premier League title and Raheem Sterling's first Premier League title, and shutting up both of their critics. But the duo weren't done there, because coming into the next season, Manchester City would find himself in a heated and historic title race with none other than Raheem Sterling's former club, Liverpool. And Sterling would be instrumental in Manchester City's title charge this season, scoring 25 times and getting 14 assists in 51 games in all competitions, including 17 league goals, which would help Manchester City pip Liverpool to the Premier League title by 1 singular point, winning the league with 98 points, following up from their 100-point season the year before. And well, Sterling could have put himself in the history books this year if it wasn't for the newly introduced VAR in the Champions League ruling out his third goal, his hat-trick, the winner against Spurs in the Champions League, which definitely would have put him up there with the greats. And Sterling would finish 6th this season in the top goal scoring ranks in the league for the Golden Boot, level with Harry Kane, which just shows the level that Sterling was operating under in this 2-year stint under Pep in the Premier League. And even though things were looking very, very good in this period, with him even going on to score 20 league goals and 31 league goals in all competitions in the season following the 1920 season, which, funnily enough, that is the that's what season that shirt is from, that I've hung up there. If you couldn't tell, I was actually a huge Raheem Sterling fan when he was at City, especially in this 3-year period that I'm talking about now. He was one of, if not my favourite player at City, and some biases might come out in some of these parts, but yeah, that is a fact. He was one of my favourite players when he was at City. But anyway, back to the stats. But despite him being on top of the world at this point and being one of the best players in the Premier League, being one of the best players in Pep's team, and being one of the best wingers in the world, there were still high-profile mistakes in his game, and you can't like highlight any other example than the miss against Lyon in the 1920 Champions League quarter final, where he just seems to hook the ball over the crossbar from like 2 yards out, and to this day I still do not understand how he missed that. And I don't think I've ever been more frustrated at a player than I was at Sterling in that very moment when he put that ball over. But things wouldn't stay golden forever for Sterling, and moving into the following season, the 2020-21 season, his goal tally across all competitions would drop to just 14 goals in 49 matches. And things wouldn't get much better in the following season, with him only getting 17 goals in 47 matches, despite providing one of the most important assists for İlkay Gündoğan's first goal against Aston Villa on the final day to help clinch Man City's second title in a row. And at this point, cracks were really starting to show in Sterling's performances, despite the fact that 17 goals and 14 goals aren't like the worst goal tallies in the world. His performances were really starting to drop. He was becoming very, very inconsistent. And when Sterling wouldn't score a goal, it would easily start a chain of events of him going game after game after game, going goalless. His big chances, missed numbers would go through the roof, with him missing more and more chances that he should be scoring. And it was a detriment to the team, his form at times, but Pep would always stick by him because he was one of Pep's favourite players. And he was even given the starting position ahead of Gabriel Jesus and Sergio Aguero in Manchester City's first ever Champions League final against Chelsea in the 2020-21 season, which they would go on to lose 1-0 after Kai Havertz scored to put the London Blues in front. And Sterling was appalling in that game, and his performances wouldn't get much better. There were lots of doubt over Sterling, despite the fact that he was then go on to go to the Euros with England, where he would be England's best player, helping them reach the final of the Euros on home soil, where again, unfortunately, they would lose to Italy, where Sterling also didn't have a great game in the final there either. But he was becoming a lot more inconsistent in his form, and he was missing a lot more key chances, which are definitely a detriment to the team. There were many a times where City would go on to lose a game or draw a game where they easily could have won with the amount of chances that Sterling missed. And at some point, you do have to say enough's enough, and he wasn't returning Pep's faith in him, so he would spend more and more time on the sideline, especially with Grealish coming in, Ferran Torres, you already had Mahrez at the club, Bernardo Silva, and obviously Phil Foden. You've got all of these exciting attacking talent in the team. You do start to think that maybe Sterling shouldn't be the first name on the team sheet as he was maybe 2-3 years prior. And this would upset Raheem, because Raheem has a bit of an ego. Well, he does have a bit of an ego, and it is again to his detriment sometimes. And this would force him to be unhappy at City because he wasn't getting game time that he thought he deserved. He thought he deserved to still be the main man in the Man City team like he was in the 18-19 season, but that just wasn't the case anymore. He just wasn't performing at a high enough level to guarantee himself a starting spot week in, week out, which would obviously lead to him being left on the bench. It would also lead to his exit in the summer of 2022, with him joining Chelsea for £47 million. And when he was asked about leaving City, he would say that he was left fuming and raging because of the fact that he lost his place at City, saying that everyone wants to feel wanted, and in football is no different. And I think it's a very disingenuous thing to say, because he was wanted at City. He was very much respected at City. He was very much loved at City by the fans. Yes, there were a little minority that would criticise him relentlessly because of his the chances and the quality of chances that he would miss. But he was very much a very popular figure within the fan base, especially one of my favourite players. But when he just came out and said stuff like this and was trying to play the victim and say that, you know, he was still basically one of our best players and that he deserved to start, and the reason he left was because he wasn't feeling appreciated. Like, even I felt a bit betrayed by him saying this, because that just wasn't the case. He wasn't performing at a good enough standard, which led to him not starting games, which led to him being upset because he thought he should still be the main man, which led to him leaving. And obviously he joined Chelsea, where he would say that his aim is to win the Ballon d'Or while at Chelsea. And well, he didn't really do that in his first season, only scoring 9 goals in 28 matches in his debut season for Chelsea, in which he would struggle throughout the season with a hamstring injury. And things wouldn't really get that much better in his second season, only scoring 10 goals in 43 matches this time, which would lead to him being left out of the Euro 2024 squad. So England's MVP for the tournament just 3 years prior, and even someone that scored in the World Cup just 2 years prior, was now left out of the squad going to Germany to compete for the Euros, because he just simply wasn't good enough. He wasn't performing at a good enough standard. And, you know, if we're going to look at highlights from Sterling's Chelsea career, the main one I can think of is that free kick in the FA Cup against Leicester. You know, that one always sticks in my mind. But this leads us to now, the present day, right? Where Chelsea have a new manager, right? Enzo. He comes in after Pochettino left the club at the end of the season, and obviously Enzo got Leicester promoted from the Championship, winning the title. And he's come in and he has stripped Sterling of his number 7 shirt and given it to Pedro Neto, and he has also told Sterling that he is not in his plans for the club and should go off and seek new employment. After Sterling came out and said that he was committed to the Chelsea project. So I can understand why Sterling would feel like this is a stab in the back and a real kick in the teeth, and that, you know, he's been hung out to dry and made to look silly, which I totally get. But I do think that Sterling being frozen out of the Chelsea squad is his own doing, and that is because Enzo, new Chelsea manager, was Pep's assistant manager during the time that City won the treble, which was the same year that Sterling was sold for throwing his toys out the pram, because 2 other high-profile players left the club that summer. Alexander Zinchenko and Gabriel Jesus both joined Arsenal to help them compete for the Premier League title for the first time in years. And they both did a goodbye interviews and thanked the club and thanked the supporters. But the only person that left that summer that didn't do it was Raheem Sterling. And then when asked to sign a shirt, a Man City shirt, in the following pre-season campaign by a fan, he would politely decline, right? And so this leads me to believe that he really did throw his toys out the pram when leaving City, and there was a huge fuss kicked up behind the scenes, which Enzo would have seen firsthand, obviously being Pep's right-hand man. So when he now gets the management job at the team that Raheem Sterling plays for, especially with him not being in the greatest form of his career at all, is he really going to want to work with that player after seeing firsthand how he acts when he's not put in the squad? No, he's not. And even with Sterling's camp coming out and releasing the statement that they did after he was left out of the game against Man City on the opening day, I just think it shows that his ego cannot take being second best, and he cannot he just can't cope with it. He has to be the main man. He has to be the centre of attention, and he has to be the focal point. And that is kind of why he left City, wasn't it? He was no longer the best player in the team, so he dropped down to a team that wasn't really what they used to be in terms of how they've competed for titles in recent years. And he wanted to be the main man there. You know, Premier League champion, dropping down to a team that wasn't in the best state to help them compete for trophies. And he didn't really, again, set the world on fire at Chelsea, scoring, 19 goals? And now he's been left out of the squad because he's clearly not good enough anymore. So, you know, and at 29 years of age as well, he hasn't even reached 30, and I think his career now at the top level is done. I think some of it is due to burnout, with him obviously playing a lot of football from a young age and being kind of a consistent starter from a young age. But I just don't think his attitude and his head, and he's in the right headspace to compete at the elite level. I'm not saying like completely at the top level. His career is done. Whereas someone like Phillips, who obviously the jury's still out on that one. But I just think Sterling's not good enough to play for a traditional top 6 club, because obviously Chelsea aren't competing for the Champions League spots or even the title. They're in a bit of a weird position. And if Sterling's struggling to be the main man at Chelsea, then where is he going to be the main man? And yes, again, you can obviously say that lots of people are struggling to be the main man at Chelsea, with the only one that's been able to do that in the last few seasons is obviously Cole Palmer, who obviously left City to join Chelsea as well. But I just think his attitude Sterling's attitude will always be his downfall. Because there's a lot of criticism that Sterling gets that is not justified, and the way he's treated by the media and the tabloids was obviously disgusting and not right, and it's something I'll always be sympathetic towards him for. But the way he conducts himself when falling out of favour at a club, and the way he leaves clubs, is almost Romelu Lukaku-esque. And I feel like both of those players, right, when it comes to the footballing sense, they want to be the main man and they want everyone to love them. And when they don't get that, and when things don't go their way and they're not the best player in the team, they kind of throw their toys out of the pram and think, no, why are you not respecting me? I deserve respect. When maybe sometimes maybe, they are not being treated with respect. But other times where they have clearly been shown with the utmost respect, especially with Sterling at City, I just think to myself, like, what's the point? Was it really worth it? And it, brings me to the quote that Mahrez said, that he said that there is nowhere higher than Manchester City. You can't go higher than Manchester City. That is the ceiling at the moment. And De Bruyne said that the grass isn't always greener on the other side. And I think Gundogan, obviously coming back to City, with that being a very weird transfer saga, has proven that the grass isn't always greener. And Raheem Sterling is definitely now proven that the grass isn't greener, because I honestly think if he stayed at City and just stuck out the rough times, I don't think his career would be in this position now. And I think he would have definitely had a better chance of him getting it back on track by staying at City than he would have by joining Chelsea like he has now. But that's what I really have to say on it. Again, let me know down in the comments your opinions on what's happened to Sterling's career and where you think it all went wrong and how you think it could have been changed. Also, let me know down below what you think of the new City top. It arrived yesterday, and I think it looks quite nice. I think it looks quite clean. Got Rodri on the back as well. I think it's quite cool. Better than that one anyway. I wasn't really a fan. I was a fan of that one when I saw it being advertised and announced. But then when I bought it, I was like, doesn't really look that great, so I don't really wear it. But anyway, leave your thoughts down in the comments. Again, like the video if you enjoyed. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We're really, really close to 500 subscribers. Literally like 2 subscribers away. We might have even reached it by the time this video comes out. And obviously, first video on when you're watching, please do check out the rest of the videos on the channel. But with all that being said, I've been Nathan. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Shut down cases, they belly dots to the can't see faces. Chasing the bad guy chase it. You don't wanna be the one like Ace and like G-Take trying to tell him I'm wasted. Aye, tell a bad bitch come break it. Body come mad, come shake it. Then get back to the basics, bro, don't shut down cases. They belly dots to the